Hi, I'm Whitney Smith. I'm the founder and CEO here at the Smith Investigation Agency. And today I'm sitting with Antree Demakos from Legal Line. Hey, Antree, how are you?
I'm great.
Good,
Glad
good.
to be here, Whitney.
Yeah, we've actually known each other for, I think, over 10 years. I'm trying to kind of figure out in my head, like, exactly how long it's been.
Yeah, I think it's 10 years
Yeah,
now.
yeah. I was
Goes fast.
Yeah, it does. It does. I was an eager young business owner at that time, and I was trying to work with other professionals, because integrity and quality and all these things are really
Paramount.
key. Yeah. Yeah, so I was wanting to work with, some people who were providing good services to their own clients and network. So that's when I met you guys, and I'm so glad that we met so long
You
ago.
came to investigate us.
I did, yeah.
And to make sure we were who we said we were
Yeah.
and doing what we said we were doing.
That's right.
And that was great.
Yeah. Well, at
And
the end of the day, if I'm going to advertise my brand, I want to make sure that we align in that way. Right? So
Exactly.
that was very key for
Exactly.
me, in starting out. So tell me a bit about Legal Line so, our viewers can know more about you guys.
Sure. Legal Line was born out of a desire to help people navigate our laws and legal system. And it has grown since the early 90s till now, over 30 years, 35 years. And we provide free legal help. We provide free legal answers and then referrals to government and trusted organizations such as yours.
Right.
We vet people. We don't just let anyone put their brand on our website. We cover about 2,500 topics and under 50 areas of law.
Yeah.
So common everyday things. You want to, get married. You might want a marriage contract. You're buying a house. You want to know about real estate law. You have a tax situation. You want to know about that.
You really want to know about it.
Pretty quickly. So over time, after dealing with the first few areas of law, after about the fourth or fifth major, family law, real estate, employment, small claims, we were getting a lot of inquiries for a private investigation, which is how we met.
Yep.
So we developed a private investigation section.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite fascinating, actually, because individuals want to hire investigators, but also the legal community. Lawyers need help, and other professionals as well. Accountants need help to, in the various cases they're working on, to get information, and they don't have the skill set to do that. Yeah. So it was a beautiful combination and a great working relationship we've had all these years.
And I think it's good too because, trying to bridge that gap between the professions, right, of how investigators in the legal side, we work so much together, yet, every time I travel and, you're sitting on a plane and someone says, what do you do for a living? You say private investigator. Their first thought is like, oh, cheating spouse, tell me your best story. And you're like, yeah that's like a section of the industry.
Right.
Like it actually, it does happen. But there's this massive side of the industry that people really don't seem to understand. So I think when we were able to create even content for your site and be that
and
resource,
expand it.
Yeah, because it's, there's so many sides of the industry that we deal with. So we're dealing with a workman's compensation and bug sweeps and, surveillance for a variety of different reasons.
Yes.
And, we find obviously the infidelity thing is there. And I guess I'm curious on your side, one thing I think a lot of people still have this idea and this concept in their mind is that if they catch their spouse cheating, that they're granted all these extra rights. And I think there's
nothing
outdated information. Yeah. Like people don't realize that though. So they think, oh, I'm going to take him to the cleaners or take her to the cleaners.
In almost all cases, that's not important. Yeah. Now, there are some cases where that's important because there could be some contracts that were put in place, prenups. And there could be financial ties to certain clauses in those contracts and years of marriage and so on and so forth. So it's possible that it can impact. But for the most part, it just is confirming something maybe that somebody suspects and is just the reason why they want to end their relationship. Listen, the law, in my opinion, is mostly about relationships and psychology and emotions. It's not, the law is just the end result, the thing you have to look to try to resolve these issues. So it's our relationship with each other as individuals, with corporations, with the state. So when those relationships go wrong, a lot of times you need information. Some of it will be relevant for legal reasons. Some of it may not be. It'll be relevant maybe for financial reasons. And some of it is just simply to decide what to do with these relationships, right?
For sure.
So I'm sure your business has a wide array of those combinations.
Yeah. Yeah, we do, especially because we're a national company, right? We operate coast to coast within Canada. So, our clientele is
Which is great for us because obviously our website is across Canada and we need good people on our website, good resources for when people need to hire someone to help them after they've got all the information they need and they want to take the next step.
Yeah. And that was, I think, one of my favorite things about you guys early on when I found you was that you don't just work with anybody, just like us. So even clients, there's certain clients we won't work with either because we want to make sure that, there's going to be a good understanding. So it's a good working relationship and that the objective is clear in what, we're being hired to do. Because people sometimes hire us, or they want, I should say, to hire us for things that, wouldn't hold up legally.
Right.
And, we want to work ethically and with the law. And, of course, if
you have to say no sometimes.
100%. And as an investigator, like there's, great, okay, I can find you information. But if you're going to try and use that in a court setting, it's got to withhold all the scrutiny that could possibly come with it.
Yes. You need a chain of custody. Yep. You need to be following the correct rules to obtain that information. Mm-hmm. And from your perspective, also, it has to be for a good and legal reason. It can't be for a malicious reason or some other criminal reason that someone wants you to do an investigation to commit a crime. That's that can't happen.
Yeah, we find too, and I think post-COVID, I think there's so many people dealing with like mental health issues, right?
A lot.
And so it's navigating that, even as a professional company, navigating people who are really going through something, and you're trying to bridge that gap of somebody who's maybe got some challenges versus somebody who's a client that needs a service, right? So that we've been finding is, a challenge in this post-COVID
you're a bit of a
world.
Psychologist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know that happens a lot in the legal profession as well.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with clients, because emotions can get high, right? And you have to separate what the law is and what actions can and can't be taken, should or shouldn't be taken. You may want to take, you may not, versus some fantasy that might come out of an emotion or some it can get heated.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think probably when I got into the industry from working as an investigator for so many years and then becoming the business side of it and dealing with clients, I didn't realize how much, counseling essentially you're doing, right?
Yes.
You're dealing with people who, it's very, just like you, someone's calling, and if their marriage is falling apart, that's a big deal.
Well, you have to have compassion.
Absolutely. So it's really, and I think the great thing about our team is we're all female led in the office in terms of dealing with clients. So I think that really helps people to have, like, we've got that empathetic side where we understand professionally, we understand the services we provide, but it's also whatever the service someone might have, like we understand it and can, help talk them through it as well.
And get past it a little bit and actually get to the point where you can help them.
Yeah.
Because that's ultimately why they're reaching out to you.
Yeah.
On an individual basis. Mm-hmm. And then if you're working for a government or a government body or a law firm, then it's a different story for you.
Right.
Like a workers' compensation claim. If there's suspected fraud, you're going to be hired by an insurance company, let's say, if it's some kind of personal injury outside of the government realm, or hired by a government agency to investigate something, or an employer. Yep. And that's a whole other interaction.
Yeah. We always find those ones pretty entertaining. I remember one, like years ago, we had done, this guy, supposedly fell off a ladder at work. Meanwhile, it happened in a certain section where, of course, there was no cameras. And, we go to the, we do surveillance, we get video, and this guy's in the gym and he's working out and he's doing all this crazy stuff. And then we have a mediation. So basically the lawyers are telling us how this is playing out. And they said, well, we're in the room,
right,
and he's sitting there and he starts crying. And then he asks to lay on the floor because he's in so much pain. And then they hit play.
Wow, he's good.
Then they hit play on the surveillance video. And the guy's like, okay, $10,000. And he just tried to settle like right in the moment. And they're like, no.
We're watching this to the end.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's pretty entertaining even just on that side. Because obviously, we sometimes deal with some very serious stuff, right? Like we had a child abduction case earlier this year. You can deal with really heavy ones, but those can be actually quite funny when you're able to see a situation like that. And then thankfully, the partnership that legal and investigative side has is we're able to give them evidence that they can say, no, like we're not going to pursue this.
And the important thing is, and this is why we wanted to deal with someone who's not only good at their job, but ethical. Mm-hmm. So we're so happy to have you, because you don't want any of this evidence being obtained illegally.
100%.
Number one, it doesn't reflect well on anybody who's involved, the law firm, legal line, yourselves, right? And secondly, you can't use it, so it's useless in the end. And that's not a good way to do things. So we're happy when we can work properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you obtain the correct answers. You find the truth.
Yeah.
Basically, I can see you as a truth seeker.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
Right? You're not going to manufacture stuff. So you're just out there, and whatever it is, you'll find it, and that's what it is. Yeah. And that's beautiful.
And I think the good thing too with like a website like yours, where it brings in that resource and brings in that information, is, we'll get people who call us and they want some service done because they've seen it on Netflix or, the most recent 007 movie. And it's like, no, that's illegal. We can't do that. We can't hack into someone's bank accounts and, do all of this. Even if we did, you can't use that. It's not like you're going to be able to say, well, here's my evidence and supply it in court. Right. So, it's for us too. It's great when you can have a resource where people can read about a service and the legal side of that. And the
realistic side of it. Yeah.
Let's come down to
the non-Hollywood side of it.
Exactly. Because it's like, this industry's not that sexy in that way, right? Where you're like, okay, it's at the end of the day, we're finding and obtaining facts.
It's work.
Yeah.
And it's work. It doesn't happen in, a minute and a half like it does on screen.
Right.
If you're following somebody to see if they're going to the gym, it's going to take time. Yep. You have to wait till they leave their house. Yep. You have to see where they're going, right? You have to get in there and say, okay, how can I video this? Yep. I need to take, do I stand, what do I do? So the whole thing has to be thought out, and it takes a little while to get the info.
I think that is an interesting one too. Budget is important, right? Because a lot of people, they don't understand the costs, maybe surrounding your industry and certainly surrounding ours. We'll have people that say, I want 27, surveillance for a month. And you're like, okay, well, and you give them the price and then they're just like, oh my gosh, I thought it was, minimum wage. And you're like, absolutely not. Like at the end of the day, this is a professional industry, no different than yours would be, right? So the cost is certainly there, and people have this expectation that that evidence comes instantaneously,
right?
And we've
day one, minute one.
Well, we've sat on files sometimes for days and or weeks, and subjects don't leave, especially when there's workman's compensation. When they're looking at the end of the claim, they're looking to make money,
right?
And some of them are career claimants, so they're smart. They're cautious. Stay inside that house. They will only go out at night or certain hours. They'll do counter surveillance before they do anything. So people are certainly
you have to wonder, is it worth it to them after that? I mean, I hope the claim is high enough, because that sounds like you're imprisoning yourself to commit a fraud. Yeah. I mean, that's just a lot of wrong thinking.
It's crazy. I had a file years ago, and this guy, he was a bald guy, and he would wear a white shirt and blue jeans every day, literally every day. So we did surveillance on a claim. You're going out maybe several times a year, depending on the budget, depending on the size of the claim the individual's going after. And literally every time I would go out, when I was like reviewing video, each time I'd gone out, he wore the same thing. But it's like, buddy, this is Canada. There's different seasons. So like, we're obviously going to know that this wasn't the same day. So I think this was his idea that, if he acted like every day is the same day, that, he would just, like he could.
I went out once. Well, I have the same thing on.
Yeah, well, I think he genuinely had, this is like the craziness. I've had people that, guy had a neck injury, and he's putting Band-Aids on his forehead. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's not even, there wasn't an injury there.
These are unintelligent frauds.
But oddly enough, there's so many of them, right? Like, and I'm sure you would know the numbers of people who are looking.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of them. Yeah. And that's why your services are needed, both for these types of claims. Yeah. People lying about their credentials to get jobs, especially when people are, exaggerate on their resume a little bit. They'll say, oh, did I have 10 clients? I'll say I had 15. Right. Those are small lies. Sure. But then you've got people who are claiming to be something and have certain training, and they do not. Yeah. And then that could end up being a danger to whatever career they're trying to get into. Yeah. So those background checks are important.
Yeah, they are. And it's good too. We see a lot. We're seeing it's growing even more now, the landlord-tenant issues. And we've always helped on both sides of that. So whether a landlord is trying to locate someone who's, skipped out on rent, or maybe they've damaged the property and they need to locate them to come after, whatever amount of money that they're looking for. Or then you have the flip side where maybe a landlord's doing something they shouldn't, or they've maybe said, oh, I'm selling the house. And then meanwhile they don't, or they try and rent it out for a higher value, or, something like that.
There are a lot of situations with the landlord and tenant. It's a big deal now, especially in areas of the country where rents are so high, and the number of units are scarce in comparison to the population. We've had a lot of immigration in Canada without thought to.
Sure.
That's my opinion.
Yeah,
without thought to the infrastructure.
Where we're going to put them.
Where we're going to put people that's affordable.
Yep.
Because a lot of them are coming and they don't have jobs and they don't have any finances that they're bringing with them. They're coming here for an opportunity.
Right.
And here they are essentially, homeless and not good.
Right.
So a lot of issues with landlord and tenant and a lot of the rates, like in Toronto.
It's crazy.
These rents are through the roof.
Yeah.
Through the roof.
Yeah, so you kind of understand why people are
they want to be paid. They want to make sure their landlord does the right thing from both sides. Yeah. There's issues.
It really is a tough one because when you hear both sides, right, you know, and as an investigator, you're impartial, right? You're, at the end of the day, you're not one on one side or the other. And you certainly hear all the stories and you kind of, you think you'll maybe sway one way at one point when you hear stories, but you're like, they have to have this right balance, right? With that Residential Tenancies Act. And it's complicated because you're never going to please everybody, but you're trying to have a system that's as fair as possible.
And the difficulty is our laws do not take into consideration in the landlord and tenant realm. They were designed for larger landlords. In other words, a big apartment building. Yeah. They weren't designed for Whitney. Yeah. Whitney, who bought herself a condo and put down a down payment and then 20 years later bought a second condo and now wants to rent that out to help pay her mortgage for her retirement.
Right.
So those laws were not meant for you as a one-off small landlord. So that's another problem. Yeah. So, there's a lot of issues with it and people take off a lot.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they change any of the legal side of that because, I'm a city councilor and I was at a municipal conference not that long ago and we were talking about accessory dwelling units and how, somebody could maybe build like a granny pod or some sort of bunkie in their backyard, but people are saying, there's no way I would do that if someone's potentially going to be living on my property. And then if there's an issue, I can't get rid of them. They're in my backyard. Like it's different than if you're renting a house that you and your family don't live at, so I wonder if at time they're going to change that sort of legal side.
They have to because it used to be more efficient. And now the government doesn't want people to be able to be kicked out because then they're on the street.
Right.
So if Whitney with her separate unit can pay, you act in local parentis. You're like their mother,
right? Yeah,
and you're essentially paying their rent because they're not paying you. Right. Well, that's better than having them on the street, and the government doesn't want to pay or can't pay or whatever. So it's become the law is not actually the laws that are in place even aren't being used and respected the way they were set out to be. Mm-hmm. So it's and then landlords on the other hand are coming up with things in order to try and protect themselves. Some of them are unscrupulous. Some of them are just trying to protect themselves against non-payment issues where they can't move their people out.
Yep.
So there's a lot of room for investigation there.
There is, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely surprising, I think, when I got into business, seeing the types of calls that were going to come in and you realize like, oh, wow, this is actually, certain pockets. And you would know, too, with who visits your website in the different scenarios that you have information for. I think it's overwhelming. Sometimes you're like, wow, I didn't realize that this many people are looking into this particular service.
And I do see that with the various topics. And it depends. It's also depends on the time of year.
Yeah.
Things happen, before tax season and things, our areas of law go up. And then afterwards, there's investigations on that part. I don't know how that fits in with your investigations if you're dealing with, tax lawyers who are trying to help people and you're trying to find information. I don't know. Yep. And then you've got, school starting and then family issues and, it can get crazy.
That's a big one. I like that your website too is not just for legal professionals. Like it's going to be for anybody. So if there's a mother or father and or husband, wife, whatever the situation might be, and they're going through a potential divorce, they can go on there and they can learn information. Not only maybe how an investigations company like ours can assist with that service, but also who practically can help them with navigating the legal situation they're about to be in.
And what the laws are, so they can hopefully be calm enough to be realistic about what the law does.
Right.
And then, do I need an investigator? Is my spouse hiding assets? That happens an awful lot. Now, we have the one side of it with the forensic accountants. They're great. If you give them some kind of records, they can trace it and find it, and they're like a SWAT team.
Yeah.
They're there.
I love people.
But how about things that are not in your bank account or on paper somewhere, or that people don't know about? That's where you come in. Find out all the stuff that's really hidden.
The planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah, where are these things? Where is it? Oh, this guy's got a warehouse unit that no one knew about under an assumed name. I don't know. You tell me the stories.
Oh, we
Whitney.
see it all the time, right? Where, or somebody has their buddy, their best friend, or the wife or mother, brother, sister. They hide assets in everybody's names, right? You go out and do surveillance, and everything that you're running that comes back to them. Oh, it's coming back to, this buddy or this guy. And, then okay, well, this is what you're doing.
And you literally have to be boots on the ground to have the starting point, to see where they physically go and who they're speaking with, to trace that.
Well, and that's what's so important about surveillance. Some people only want to do the research side of things, which an asset search is great, but it's going to show what that person does have in their name and all of that. It's when you go out on surveillance that you learn all the additional information. So, we had a case not that long ago where we started with an asset search, but it turned into surveillance, and we found out so much more when we were there. We found, like you said, warehouses. We found properties where the individual was storing assets. We found a cottage that, we had no knowledge of before. We found employment that there was no knowledge of before. So you start to learn a lot more when you do both sides of those services instead of just one.
It's necessary. If you're concerned about it, it's necessary, because there probably is something there. If if a person is concerned about it, they usually have a reason to be, so I was just going to say the hard cases are, I think the family law cases are some of the hard ones, because they deal with children.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you could have, from the legal side, you have, spouses who are bickering and fighting, making claims. This person did that to the child. This person did this to the child. And, sometimes they can be real and sometimes they are not.
Yeah.
And that can do a lot of damage and affect the whole relationship that that child has with the parent and what the situation is going to be going forward.
Yeah.
So we've got that part of it. And then, if you come in and are hired to actually check it out, is this person really an alcoholic like they say? Right. Are they buying any liquor? Are they outside of their home at bars in the middle of the night when they have the children?
Yeah.
We need that information
100%.
In order to move forward.
Yeah.
And resolve things.
Mm-hmm. We see a lot of that, unfortunately, obviously substance abuse that takes place while the individual's in care of children. And, it might be that, they think, oh, well, the kid's in bed, so I can have a couple drinks or take some substances, whatever. And it's, for us, we want to get that video. And again, it's where the time in surveillance comes, where you need to be there, because the more you're there, the more you see. And that's what we try and explain to clients, because, we had a case not that long ago out east where an individual, wasn't supposed to be drinking, and he was in the garage drinking with his buddies while the kid was asleep. And then he got in his vehicle with the kid later on and drove, and we called the police and he was arrested. So, that's also where it's practical having an investigator there, because you can see the offense take place and then you can immediately do something about it. And now, that partner is going to have some more sway when it comes to the legal side of things and upholding, well, she wasn't lying. Like what she was saying was legitimate.
So the child can then be protected, and then the individual maybe gets a bit of a wake-up call to deal with their issue.
Yeah,
right?
And hopefully get some help. And
because ultimately that's what the goal is.
Yeah.
Right? We want to help people.
Absolutely.
That's the goal of all of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is to provide a service that can bring about a resolution as opposed to making things worse. We want to make things better.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the abduction ones have to be the toughest thing that you deal with.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're going to find there.
They are. Yeah. Especially because you can go across province, you can go across, cross countries, right? And then you're dealing with the law in very different ways, right? So you're dealing with not just maybe Ontario or BC, but you're dealing with, some other countries. So we've certainly dealt with some different cases that, they become very complex. And we even need lawyers to even just assist us in the process, because we want to make sure that every step we take is within the law and that we aren't going to get in trouble for something.
And to make sure that whatever evidence you're obtaining can be used in, let's say, the home province where this thing is going to be resolved.
Yep.
So that's an issue as well.
For sure.
And sometimes it does take you out of the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's, it gets scary.
Yeah.
But hopefully, because most of them are just a fighting battle,
right,
as opposed to an outsider. So hopefully most of the time it resolves itself.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I hope.
That's what you hope, yeah.
That's what my dream is. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so on your website, legalline.ca, you guys obviously have private investigative resources. What other types of things that are on there that people are looking at and getting information from?
Oh, many things, many things. We have, so all of our links are area of law specific. So whatever question you're reviewing, you just right on the page, right where the answers are, you could click, let's say, over to your company if you wanted to hire a private investigator. You could click on the links and resources and then immediately have at your fingertips all of the government websites and associations in your province.
Right.
That's province specific and area of law specific, because sometimes what you need to do is actually go register something, let's say at a government agency, and you need to know where to go and how to do that. So we have links throughout, pretty easy to access. We also have some trusted organizations in some of the areas of law to help individuals, like with credit, and that's a big one. And sometimes people they need help to either sort out their finances or they have to go bankrupt. It might be at that point, and you want to just do it right and start fresh again. Yeah. So it's it's just throughout. There's information throughout. I can't remember all of the people that we deal with.
So there's a lot. There's a lot of resources, but that's a good thing.
Overwhelming, but when you're as a user, you can easily zero in on the topic you want, and that's the key. You don't have to read a whole bunch of stuff. Our answers are short. They're from 1 to 3 pages worth of answers, depending, and they're written in an everyday style.
Sure.
Without losing the relevance of the law, because you don't want it to be too sophisticated and too legalese, because nobody wants that.
Or they can't understand it.
Well, yeah. Why should they be able to? It's legalese. No one should write like that.
That's for you.
Yeah. And then you don't want to lose the meaning by making it too simplistic. You want to give value
for sure
to the person reading this, a real answer.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they just have a question that they need answered. They just need some information. But then when they need to go forward, we have some resources there for them, as well as some free documents that they can use, sample documents they can fill in and do
I think that's a big one too, for people to just have an easy access to resources, right? If they need that certain document
letter,
for whatever it is.
It's like an easy letter, but they don't know what is important to include in that kind of a letter. Like a termination letter. You have an employee, you want to terminate the employment.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do? Well, have you given them a warning? If not, here's a warning letter. Put in the, use this and put in your specific details.
Yeah, for sure.
A helping hand for everyday things.
Yeah. And I like too that you guys, obviously you have legal sections. And so you have different partners in there, because we get asked all the time when people call us, and let's say it's an infidelity situation or something, and they've just found out infidelity's taken place. Well, their next step is to contact a lawyer, and they'll say, who do you recommend? And for us, because we're national, and it's important, I want to make sure if I'm going to recommend somebody that I know that person and they, they're going to be the best individual.
They're good. Yeah.
So ultimately they can look on your website and find some trusted resources in the province that they live in.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, I appreciate you being here. This has been super fun.
It has been great to see you again, and always fun to see you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's been a ride.
Yeah, I think the first of many. I think we're gonna have a few conversations.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Yeah. Well, again, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.